Member for Nelson Creston.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker, and I am happy to rise and support to speak to Motion 14. And for those who are watching at home, Motion 14 is be it resolved that this House recognize the accomplishments and success of BC's Skills for Jobs blueprint. Now, for those who have been watching this last hour at home, they might have known a little bit of kerfuffle happening earlier on in the hour, and they were anticipating that we would be speaking to a different motion. That is not the case due to the particular views of one member in the House, and that's fine. That's how things proceed. Often here in the legislature, you got to stay on your toes. And so in speaking to BC Skills for Jobs blueprint, I was listening to members opposite, and I appreciate the member for West Vancouver, from West Vancouver, who was just talking about and admitting to being the resident skeptic in his caucus, especially around the BC Jobs Plan. And I'm glad that perhaps being a member of the governing party, it was a little bit more open to seeing successes in that jobs plan. But, Honourable Speaker, I would argue and I would put forth is that that jobs plan has not been as successful as promised. And we need only to look at some of the promises around post-secondary education, Honourable Speaker, that promised that we would be increasing our international student numbers here in the province of BC quite substantially. I believe it was about doubling those numbers. We have not achieved those, and we were supposed to do that by 2015. Some other promises that we've seen and heard from this government was 100,000 jobs in the LNG sector, Honourable Speaker, by 2015. Well, that is definitely not happened, Honourable Speaker. In fact, all the promises around LNG and all the jobs that were supposed to come with that have not been materialized at all, and I think that reflects on the type of management that we see coming from this government and the promises that they make without actually being able to back it up with actual substance, Honourable Speaker. But on our side of the House, we do have a jobs plan that would be backed up by substance, that would meet the tests, the checks and balances, the reviews from independent agencies like the BC British Columbia Utilities Commission. And we've put our plan for jobs, which counters the BC Skills for Jobs blueprint, into a plan that we call Power BC, because we are specifically looking at the energy sector, much of which the governing party is also doing, is looking at the energy sector when it comes to their blueprint for jobs, Honourable Speaker. And what we look at is looking at the opportunities for energy efficiency in a retrofit plan. And the reason why we're looking at that, Honourable Speaker, is because this is what the statistics are telling us, is that according to provincial economic multipliers compiled by BC Stats, retrofits create 16 direct jobs and 3 indirect jobs per 1 million in increased economic and output. In comparison, new construction, so that's just brand new construction, Honourable Speaker, creates only 6 direct jobs and 4 indirect jobs for 1 million in increased economic output. So if we actually took BC's resources and started looking at a broad scale energy retrofit plan, so looked at our schools, our hospitals, our public buildings where people go and get their driver's license, Honourable Speaker, if we start looking at that all across British Columbia, and how we can create jobs with the assets that we have, through energy retrofitting alone, Honourable Speaker, we could create many more jobs than the current job plan that we see coming from this government. Honourable Speaker, as well, if we decided, like we suggest in Power BC, to look at renewable energy opportunities for British Columbia, we would be able to create more jobs. So, for example, if BC, in building a portfolio of clean energy power projects in BC with a capacity of just 800 megawatts, we would create $4.3 billion in GDP and 45,200 full-time equivalent person years of employment in construction alone, Honourable Speaker. The opportunities are clear. I think we need to move on to a better plan than what this current government is offering.